Creativity isn't just about making things or about using your imagination to create new things in new ways, especially if you're a spiritual seeker or an empath who's wanting to grow spiritually, grow your spiritual gifts, trust your intuition more, and have a deeper connection with your higher power. So today I'm going to share with you, 1, how to be creative, and 2, how creativity can transform you and your life. How do I know? Because creativity transformed me and my life. So let's get going. How to be creative. First thing, you have to be willing to suck to be creative. You have to be willing to be bad at the medium you choose. So whether it's painting like what I do, or macrame, or making wood, whatever you make, okay, you have to be willing to suck at it. You have to be willing to be crummy at it and go through the process of learning that medium. And it's one of the biggest things I see that stops people is wanting to be good right away. So you have to be willing to suck and embrace it, because once you're trying to be good at something, you get this energy of you want to be good at something. What happens? You get into your ego, and that will put you out of the creative flow. And so that's the first thing. You have to be willing to suck. And if you're willing to suck, then you get in that creative flow, because you just start getting into the process of what you're creating. Okay? Number 2. Because what is that creative flow, right? The creative flow is about connecting to source, right? Whatever you call that source, higher power, whether it's you call that source God, Buddha, the universe, doesn't matter. But that is where all creativity really comes from. In fact, every great creator you ever hear speak will say, yeah, I just get in the flow and it just comes. And where's it coming from? Source, the ethers, your higher power, okay? So if you're in that ego mind of trying to be good, that will stop you, okay? So the third thing, if you're worried about what other people think, about whether, not just whether you're good, but what they'll think about the art you're creating. Because I want to share with you, I was guided to share with you my story about Yogananda. When I first started creating spirit guide portals, I had this desire to paint Yogananda. I thought, oh, let me create the great masters, right? And I wanted to create Yogananda, and I thought, gee, I want to create him with the energy and blessings and power that Yogananda had when he was alive. But I kept it to myself because I was worried. I thought, oh, people are going to think I'm weird. People are going to think I'm weird, right? But I just kept praying and invoking and letting go of that voice of worrying about what other people will think. But in the beginning, I was, I don't want anybody to know, because I was worried about what people think. But then I just said, okay, let me let this go. And I started bringing in my spiritual practices and praying and relaxing, doing yoga to relax, and really invoking in the energy of Yogananda, because his energy is what I wanted to be infused into him. And when I got done with them, I had artists come by and say, hey, Yogananda's in the house, kind of give me a thumbs up, and I thought, I did a pretty good job. But that's not the amazing part of the story. The amazing part of the story is that I put Yogananda up to dry, and a week later I went to check on him, and someone came in who I'd never seen in the studio before, and she came up and she said, are you the one who painted Yogananda? And I said, oh, yes, I am. And she says, well, I just have to tell you, when I look at this painting, I feel his energy and his vibration, and I feel like I'm being blessed by him, and I know I'm a disciple of Yogananda. And on the outside, I said, thank you. On the inside, I said, oh my goodness, it worked. Now, what enabled it to work was me letting go of worrying about what people would think about me wanting to do this, and just really invoking and connecting with the energy of the spirit of Yogananda, the energy and vibration of his energy in creating that. I really asked him to come through me and paint him, okay? So if you're worried about, is someone going to think I'm weird on this thing I want to create, you got to let it go. And just get into the energy, and whatever higher power you have, pray to that so that you can connect with it. So part of this is all about being willing to suck, to be great. Like, you're willing to, let people think you're weird, okay? Number 2, and then this step on how to be creative, is you have to know when things are stopping the creative flow, Okay, and the biggest thing that stops that creative flow is when you notice that you're starting to doubt or worry about whether this is good or not. So, step 3, the creative flow is really about really checking in with yourself. You're always checking in to see, does this feel like what you're being called to do? Does this feel right to you? Does it feel like it's expansive? It's the next step in the process that you're going through. And that's the thing about creativity. I say step 1, step 2, step 3, but these are not linear steps. These are all happening at the same time, and that you're checking in with yourself as you're creating, you're being willing to go through the process, you're checking in with yourself to make sure you're not in your own ego getting caught up. If you're getting stuck, you know you're in your ego. Like if you're all of a sudden feel like blocked, that you can't move forward on a project, I tell people that's a clear sign that you're in your ego and worried about whether it's good or whether someone will like it or what will other people think. If you're selling art, it can be really, like when I do personal spirit guide portals for clients, I just always move that voice aside. And the great thing about my personal spirit guide portals is that no one knows who their spirit guide looks like until I get the vision, and they can't see my vision. And so I don't worry about them having a certain expectation. It's not like a commission or where they say, I want this certain thing to look this way. So you have to really let all that go, even if it's a commission where someone's hiring you, because if you sit there and you worry about how they want it, you get out of the flow of the creativity and into the worry about what they want. So you want to, these are the 3 things that go on when you want the creative flow. How you want to start to ignite that creative flow within you is to be in the process and notice if you're in that worry, and then check in with yourself, checking into how does it feel to you, because the creativity is all about you at this point. If you like what you've heard so far, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, share it with someone that would benefit from this, because it all helps my channel. So let's get to the second topic I said we'd share with you, about how creativity can transform you and your life, because it really can. It transformed me. Okay? It took me from being a non-visual person to a visual person. And what I mean by that is whenever I would do guided meditations with people, they would say, visualize the golden ball of light or the rose or the whatever they would tell you to visualize. And I wouldn't see anything. It would mean nothing. And after I started creating these spirit guide portals and creating the consistent basis and combining my creativity with it, I started to have visions. That's why I created all these spirit guides, because they started coming to me. The spirit guides started coming to me in meditation and visions, and then they let themselves be known. They wanted me to create them into these portals, these doorways for you to connect with them. And then they started giving me intuitive guidance to help my coaching clients, and now I work with them and all my clients. And so the creativity and bringing in spiritual practices with it transformed me as far as my spiritual gifts and abilities and my whole life, because these gifts began to awaken. I started to change how I worked with clients, what I did, in my life, how I started to operate my life, because I was also getting guidance from them, because they started giving me guidance for my own life, and I started to trust it at a deeper level. Have you ever been where you get intuitive downloads, or you think you do, but you always question it? Well, that's how I used to be. Now my spirit guides come in and give me guidance, and I don't sit there and question it. Even if it makes no logical sense, I go, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I just trust that I'll see the results later. Doesn't mean I'm never afraid to do it, but it means I trust that, okay, I've had enough evidence and proof that it will be good, that I go and act on it. So one of the things, if you notice what I said I did, was you have to commit to a consistent creativity practice. It is a practice. I tell people it's a way to actually grow spiritually, but most people aren't looking for that necessarily with art. But if you want your creativity, your flow to open up, that creative flow, the more you consistently do it, the stronger that flow gets. The easier it is for you to get connected to your higher power, whatever that your higher power is, because whenever you're connecting, you're connecting to the higher power, okay? Whether you call that higher power, God, Buddha, Allah, doesn't matter the name, that's what's going on, okay? So you want to commit to a consistent practice. I'd love to see you comment and share what your commitment is, whether it's 3 times a week or every day, whatever it is. When I had mine awaken, I was doing it 5 days a week, sometimes 6. But I was doing it 5 days a week. Now, I don't do it 5 days a week all the time now because I obviously do coaching and things like that. But I do it every week, okay? And so that can range from 2 or 3 times to more. It just depends. But you have to decide what it is for you. I recommend you make a commitment to, like I said, 2 or 3 times a week if you can. And put that down in your calendar so you do it. Because if you don't put it in your calendar, you won't do it. I know when I failed to put it in mine, it kind of gets pushed to the back burner. You have to put it as a priority. So besides the commitment, you want to bring in, now whatever path you're on, I'm an interfaith minister, so I honor all paths, but the power of prayer is the first thing I brought in when I started to connect and create, was I would pray to whatever your higher power is. I prayed, to Divine Mother, to God, at the time I was not connected to spirit guides. Now I pray to my spirit guides, but I did a prayer asking to move my little self aside and to let whoever the spirit guide I was creating to flow through me. So you can ask God to flow through you, but let that happen and be open to that flow, because creativity is all about connection to your higher power, connection to what you're creating, and that connection to the energy of what you're creating, because in order to infuse it into whatever you're creating, whether you want it to be a piece of woodwork that inspires someone or is functional, you want to take that energy and infuse it into what you're creating. And so you want to do a prayer. I also did something that some of you may not do, but in the creative process, my art teacher used to yell at me that you have to relax. He would yell at me from across the art studio saying, relax, Deepa, relax, you got to relax. And so that's when I started to go, let me do some yoga postures. Or deep belly breathing, or whatever helps you relax before you start your creative process, because that helps you with your connection to higher power. I recommend you do. I always do a few yoga postures if I can, or the breath of joy, to just get myself relaxed with my prayer. Okay, so prayer, something to relax. And you're this creative being. You are meant to create. So if you're not creating on a consistent basis, you're going to be going against the way you're naturally wired. And so when you start to create and invite in your higher power, it starts to transform you more towards what the truth is in your life. Because that creativity is what's one of the true things in your heart that you need to do as a human being. Everyone is meant to create in some form. We all do it in different ways. Some don't do it with art. They do it in other ways. But you want to be creating that consistent connection to your higher power, and using the way that you're wired, the creativity, starts to transform your abilities, your gifts. It starts to awaken spiritual gifts in you and your ability. And the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to become happier. You're going to be happier, more joyful, because whenever I consistently create, whenever I'm creating something, and when I'm done, I'm just like, I feel so good. Now, if you create and you're not feeling good, that's because you're not in the flow. You are judging yourself. You are, judging your work, because that'll take you out of that good spot in no time. And that's where you got to practice that awareness to go, if I'm not feeling joyful and happy at the end of my creative time, it means I was spending my time judging my work and judging myself. And so then do a prayer to release that, so that you can be back into that creative flow. So the last thing that you want to do to start to transform you and your life with creativity, that's going to help you to stop being in the judgment of your work and of yourself and the work that you're creating, is self-love. Start to practice self-love. When you see yourself, if you see yourself, I'm hoping you don't, but most people do. If you see yourself, saying, this isn't very good, or I didn't do a good job, or I'm worried about what other people think, that's in the voice of judgment. And judgment never connects you with the creative flow, okay? What helps you get into that creative flow even more, too, is practicing self-love. Loving yourself. Now, how do you start to love yourself in the creative flow process? Is praising that you're even just sitting down to do it, because, or standing up to do it, however you do it. But praise is more of love and judgment is not. Okay? And so if you're someone who really wants to expand your ability to love yourself, please check out my Self-Love, Connect Your Self-Love Spirit Guide program. I'm going to be starting a new one pretty soon. You can check it out on my website. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. I'd also would love to see in the comments what you're doing creatively. If you want to share what you're doing, like you could take a little picture or video too. I'd love to see it, because I love seeing other people's creative process of what they are creating in their life. All right. Have a miraculous day. Remember, greatness is within you. It's time to shine your light. Blessings.